And this session is about being present in your online course or social presence in your online course. So I'm going to turn on my screen here so you can see it and get the slides going. Okay. So we're going to talk about what is social presence, why is it beneficial in your course, and how do we do that to have a high quality course. So social presence, it refers to the thoughts and feelings of another person. So there's a feeling that someone is present based on their thoughts, emotions, and the such. So it feels like somebody is not in a computer-based game kind of situation. It's a real person, tangible. So here's my question. What makes you feel that a person is present? How do you know that I'm an actual person talking to you? I'm not a computer. What kind of traits do you see, hear, feel? What is it that tells you that I'm a real person and I'm present at this moment? Think of 3 traits. So here are some of the traits that you might have thought about. So someone is speaking to you. Another one is eye contact. They might have shared something personal. You know my role in the university I'm from. I realize it wasn't a lot, but it's something personal. I shared something. Discussion, interaction. We aren't able to have one yet as far as the interaction piece, but I know you're there and you're listening to me. And in the question and answer section, we will be able to talk live then. So there's the interaction piece. Sharing new information. I'm sharing information with you. So it feels that it's a real person, a conversation. And the other thing is a consistent presence. So I'm here, I'm talking, we're talking about different things. If you're in an online course, it is consistent presence and showing up and being real and talking and sharing in your course. So it's sharing your emotions, thoughts. It might be thoughts or emotions about the content that you're sharing. It could be your personal experience, your background, something you've done in your profession. All that, those things are sharing. And your experiences are the big piece. They took this class for you. You are the important piece of your class. You have the expertise. It's different than the students going online and doing independent studies somewhere. You are added to this and you are the valuable piece. So remember that part. A lot of people will put content up in their online courses and forget to put themselves the important piece that makes it different, that makes you, that someone takes the class at your university is because you're teaching it. So we want to make sure you're there. But so why? Again, it's not on the slide, but to be a support to your university, right? So that you have a high quality course and people talk about that course, that they learned something from it and they like the professor and the interaction in the university. They want to take more classes there. Also engages the students. It improves their engagement and participation, their learning. It helps them make connections when you're sharing things in your course and you're interacting with them. Helps them to remember things as well. So it does also help their performance because you're giving them feedback. Part of your interaction is giving them feedback, not just a grade, but feedback. What did they do right? What did they need to improve on? Not just what's wrong, but what was good about it. They want to hear that. We've had, in a survey we took at our university, we heard somebody say, yep, me and my group partner we got an A on our project, but we worked so hard on it, we never even knew what we did good, what we did great, what we did right. So don't forget to also say those parts as well when you're giving corrections and feedback. Obviously, it gives an increased opportunity for program retention. So you might share stories or experiences or job-related things in your profession from your previous life, or maybe you're an adjunct to your current life in the profession. And you're sharing things that it sparks an interest to them. It makes, if they've had a relevant experience and engaging experience in your course, it's going to spark more passion in that area. So it's going to improve your retention if you are present, have social presence in your online courses. Of course, there's always the little HLC compliance part. It's a good thing for a high quality course as well. We'll remember that one. So how do we do this? What are ways that we can be socially present in our courses? So let me pause for a moment and take a different direction and then come back, okay, to connect them. So I'm assuming everybody that's listening has been on, seen, experienced some form of social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you have kids or you're a young adult, it could be Snapchat. And there's lots of other platforms. But my question to you is, what makes you feel connected to somebody in social media platforms? What is it that, yes, I feel like that person's my friend, or that's my acquaintance, or I want to get to know that person more often, or I love to see their posts. What is it that makes you feel that connection? My other question is, what is it that makes you want to disconnect from that person on social media? Whether you block them, unfollow them, dislike them, whatever it is, what happens that makes you want to disconnect from them? Usually it's some kind of interaction about some content, an opinion or a topic or something. It could be an interaction where they didn't handle themselves well. Whatever it is, you make that decision negatively because of an interaction, but you also make that decision positively to feel connected to somebody based on the same things, interactions, sharing, whether it's by video or even just posts or something like that, or comments. It's that connection and that consistent part. So let's bring that back around to our courses. Okay, remembering that feeling, how you feel connected online or disconnected. Let's think about this. So good social presence in an online course doesn't just happen. It's intentional, and you need to make decisions to be present in your course. Social presence is intentional, and it's a practice that you do. Now, when you're designing your course, you can build it right in. And that's actually the easy part, is if you build it in the design, then it will follow. Assuming you'll have to show up for your things that you schedule. So the first thing that a student will see is your welcome section. So let's take us in our minds back to the classroom. If you're teaching your course in the classroom, what kind of interaction happens? Say they walk in the very first day in the classroom the first day. Usually there's someone standing at the door or at the desk. Hi, how are you? Come on in. We'll start in a few minutes. You know, where do you work? What's your major? It's just kind of conversations. It's interaction. It's hi, welcome here. And you start talking a little bit. Oh, wow, how's your weekend? Oh, wow, yeah, I had this happen at home, or I planted my garden, or I had this funny thing happen. It's just conversations and exchanges that you have with the students. So bear that in mind when you do a welcome video. Now we're talking like 3 minutes, not like a lecture. Just, hi, this is who I am. Describe something about yourself personally. You know, I worked in another state for a few years. I came here, I moved there. I like to rock climb, or I'm doing winemaking. I have 2 dogs, whatever the case may be, just a little something personal for them. And, you know, and again, that's your choice as far as how personal you get. You can talk about what's your favorite food and your favorite color if you don't want to talk about your life, anything. Or music, something that you like. And then a little bit about the course. Okay, this is what we're going to do in our course. This is what it's about. Here are the deliverables or the final projects that we're going to do. Just a little bit about the course. And then tell them how to get started in your course. Okay, when they're done with your video, okay, now you can start the first module, or click the start here page, and I'll see you in the course kind of thing. So it's just talk to them like you would in the front of class the first day. It's just a welcome. Let them hear you, see your mannerisms, hear your tone of voice. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be 10 tries to get it, because they want to see you, a real person, just like they would you only get 1 take in the front of the class. So just be informal and talk to them. It's perfect in maybe 3 minutes. And then also you're going to want to do an instructor introduction. So maybe you have a page in your welcome section that has a little bit about you. I've taught in this area, I've taught these courses, whatever the case may be, a little bit about you, and then how do you like to be contacted? You know, tell them your contact information, but what's your preferred method? What are the hours that you like to make? So it's all just a little bit more about yourself in a picture. Again, in the same welcome section area. Another thing is to give them a platform to ask a question. You want them comfortable asking you questions, so they're not going to other professors that don't teach your course because they have a connection with them, or an advisor or the program director. You want them to come to you if they have a question about your course. And so you need to let them feel like you have an open door, there's a connection, they've talked to you before. So one way to do this in your course is to have course questions, a thread, you know, an area, a forum where they can ask questions, other students can see the answers, they can see that there's been an interaction, that you're on there, that you're answering questions. And that's right there, and it'll save you so many phone calls and emails too, so that's nice. And then you're not answering the same question all the time. If you tell your, you know, ask your students to check there first if they have a question in the course, and if not, to let you know, or post it there. You can set your notifications for your courses that if something comes in on the discussion board or anything, that it can flag you. So you can get that or have it emailed if you set it up. Another idea would be to offer videos. So again, if you do your welcome video, you're in front of them. Then if you do a couple-minute video between, like to introduce a new module, like an overview. So this is what we're going to do and talk about in this module. Just a little bit about the assignment. We're going to do a discussion post. Just a little bit like you would in the class again. So for that week when they walk into your class, this is what we're going to be doing this week. At the end, we're going to have an exam. You're going to do a blog post, such and such, write a paper. We're going to talk about this topic, right? So you would say that when you introduce that week's topics, that week's class content. So it's the same thing. And you can also put these, say each week if you have one, to introduce whatever they're doing that week. These can be short. I mean, please keep them short. Just an overview, you know, a couple minutes, 5 minutes less, 3 minutes is great. So you can post those in your announcements every week so they can get it in their email, then a checklist of things that are due that week that they have to do, read chapter such and such, write a paper or a blog post or responding discussion board and take the quiz, whatever it is, in your announcement each week. But then have your overview for that week too, that you have in your course, and you can also put that in your announcement. So communication, that consistent presence. And then they're seeing you every week like they would in a class. Again, they don't have to be perfect, just talk to them like you would in front of the class. The other piece I like is the synchronous online chats. The synchronous, you're live, they can ask questions. I usually do this in my courses, my graduate classes or undergrad, whatever the case may be, somewhere around week 2, because I don't want anyone getting lost starting right out. It could be week 3, depending on your content. But somewhere in the beginning, people can talk with each other, they can talk with you, they see you live, you're answering questions, you're laughing about whatever it is you guys are talking about. But also you're there to talk through things like the final project or the final exam or whatever you're going to be doing if they have any questions. For some courses, they have a research paper or a final something, and maybe they get a little leeway following a criteria to choose what that's going to be. So you can ask them then, what are they thinking about? Help them flesh out what is that going to be, help them solidify their ideas to start their research. So anything like that you can answer questions like you would in a class. Hey, that's what we're going to do. Does anyone have any questions about it? It's the same kind of thing. It's also really nice to give them feedback. If say you have a chat, synchronous chat, the second week and then the 7th week or somewhere else, then you can, you know, just kind of get through some of the course questions, but also tell them what's going well. You know, I really liked your last papers and I saw these things, I saw these themes, I thought this was great. I want to reiterate this because I didn't see a lot of this in the papers, whatever. It's just feedback. More feedback for them, your presence. So synchronous chats are very helpful. And when you have one, if it's online, remember again, put your student hat on. Remember again, these students, they can be adults with kids. They can be young adults that have siblings in the house and they have to share the computer, whatever the case may be. Make some options, or they're working. Maybe they are doing delivery, food delivery, whatever the case may be. So give them options, maybe a Monday night and a Thursday lunch or something, so they can make sure that they hit one of them, or you can require that for some points, participation points. So the very first thing, again, and was the first thing we talked about, was the welcome video, your introduction video, welcome to everything. So again, here are some steps of some kind of things that you should include. Again, these are brief. You know, introduce yourself. We kind of talked through that, explain the course, share about your deliverables, and then kind of where they get started. But here it is written out, and there'll be a copy of this presentation in our presentation handout folder for the conference, so you're welcome to get to that as well. But give it a try. Try it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't matter. You know, we have a break in our conference or at lunch, or if you get 10 minutes in between them because they get out early, or you're waiting for the next one to start, try it. Just try a couple minutes. It's just practicing getting you comfortable. Try it on your phone. If you have a smartphone, just try it on the phone. If not, you could open another tab and try it on your computer, whatever the case may be, but just give it a shot and see how, you know, it's just getting used to that. So I would love if you could reflect a little bit on what was something that you learned or thought about differently regarding social presence from just the things that I talked about. And maybe if you go to the question and answer, you could post some of that in the chat. I would love to hear if there's something that you thought of differently. But remember to it's just putting you in your course. You're valuable and you're important in putting you in there, who you are, not just your content. And so we want to see you in there, and so do your students. So just remembering those little things to talk with them and have the interaction, and all that's building community. Your synchronous chats are building community, your discussion boards are building community for the students as well with their peers. So it's all good in all ways. And it's just something you get used to and get comfortable with. So I would just say design that into your course, and it makes it a lot easier instead of trying to go back and interject it and you forget and it's not comfortable. Just design it right into the course and you're good to go. Schedule your chats ahead before it starts and you're on the schedule. So here's my email on the slide as well. If you have further questions, I will be doing the question and answer after this. And also there's the other technology piece that you can go to the other breakout to hear kind of how to do these things. And I just thank you all for attending my session. And I will see you in the other sessions. So thank you again.
This is Angie with Ferris, and I'm going to be helping to moderate today. So thank you for that session. We have a little over 15 minutes before we have the breakout for the Q&A or the tech session happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this back over to Kelley for some of the questions that have popped up in the chat. And it looks like most of them got answered or responded to while we were going, but under the theme of synchronous chats, when you were talking about that, Kelley, Daniel Davis did ask, is chat in Canvas searchable? And so I don't know if you know the answer to that.
So you don't have to use Zoom or anything like that. So if you're in Canvas, if you want to do a synchronous, you can do Studio, you can do Zoom. I just like Zoom because it's less glitchy than all the other ones that I found, less glitchy than BlueJean or any of those, but it's whatever you're comfortable with that you can do a synchronous chat. So, you know, it doesn't matter. You can post a link, like if you do a Zoom or something else, you can just put the link in your course. So did I answer that? I'm trying to see the question. Did that answer the question? And you can put your mic on if you need clarity on that one.
Hi, this is Daniel Davis. Thank you. I think this is great. I think this is a fantastic topic, and it really answers some important questions for me about transitioning to online teaching. So I just wanted to say that. I've used chat in Canvas like as a kind of ongoing discussion board, but yeah. I'm going to create a special discussion board for my online course this summer. But my question for you is chat like that, you know, that open chat room, is that searchable? Or is it better to break it up and say, okay, here, I'm going to have a chat on this topic. Like, your topic proposal is due this week. I'm going to have, 2 synchronous chat sessions. And then later they can go back and review that. And they know they're reviewing the topic proposal and it's here. As opposed to having just this big old chat room for the whole course,
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great question. So what I do for those things, for like those weekly reminders, remember your draft, you should have your draft going by now because this is due, whatever. I use the announcements, because if you use the announcements in Canvas, that's where you could put just your 1-minute overview of the coming week with your reminders, but also in writing. So you could do the 4 things that they have to do that week in your announcement. Because if you use the announcement feature in Canvas, it automatically emails to everybody. If you want something that's in the course, so your announcements, wait, let me go back to that. You can actually, there's a feature in settings, if you do at the very bottom, I think it's like more options or something, or in the very bottom of settings, you can set your announcements, so like the last 2 or 3 or however many you want, to appear at the top of your Canvas page as soon as they log in, and then the modules come down. So that's one option to answer that, as far as that constant communication is announcements. But the other one is the discussion boards, like you were talking about. So instead of like, and I don't know if that's what you're referring to, you use, but discussion boards are a great way to do that. Because if you want to talk about a specific topic, I would label that discussion board that topic name so that you can reference it or they can reference it. Yeah. And you can have 3 or 4 different ones in your discussion board going. It doesn't really matter however many topics you want to hit. And then you can even mention those in your announcements. Be sure to check whatever topic this week for discussion on such and such.
Yes. Okay.
Does that help? Does that answer that?
Yes, it does. Yeah, that's very helpful in how I conceptualize it and set it up. So, and then that way it'll kind of manage the communication so it doesn't, get out of control.
Absolutely. And then even if you have like, other than just the topics, of course, questions one, that also keeps people asking in that area, like that. They get used to the discussion board piece, like going in there to find their answers and things like that. And that way other students are seeing the same answers if they have the same questions.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as far as more questions that were posted in the chat room, that really answered the questions. But Kelley, you did pose some that maybe now that we're face-to-face with you, maybe people would feel more comfortable if you asked them again and they would respond to them, like your one about how we know people are socially present. I don't know if you want to go that route.
Yeah, I would love any of that feedback. So a few of the questions that I asked was, as Angie said, how do you know when someone's present? Another one is, what did you think about differently after hearing what I had to say, as far as, did it trigger any ideas for you to add into your course? Is it something that you're already maybe doing and it just kind of validated that? Did it spark new ideas for things that you might be doing? So I would love to hear that from you guys. So you can turn your mics on for that if you'd like. Yes, go ahead, John.
Hi, this is really good. I especially like the welcome video that you talked about. I've never done that in the video. I plan on developing a video between each module. So I'm teaching a summer 2 course, 12 sessions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but when you're doing online, have you done online before?
I have taught online for years, and I've taken all of my graduate classes online as a student as well.
Okay. So if your online is like mine, it's a dual screen thing. In other words, they're recording the PowerPoint and they're recording you. Mm-hmm. So you do have interaction of yourself with the class. It's not just showing them PowerPoints, right?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Okay.
A lot of people will do annotated PowerPoints, which is still their voice, and that's fine as long as they have like an intro video in that module or somewhere so they're present. But yes, like you said, kind of like what we just modeled, where I had the PowerPoint slides but you could see my face too. then that's what you're talking about. That's fine because they can see you then teaching, basically. So yeah, that's a good start on that. Yep.
Okay, I do still think that the added videos and the welcome videos, kind of as an aside to the primary presentation, is going to be a good help. I just wanted to know how you kind of integrated between the two, between your online space visual and, okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
I'm just having trouble with explaining all this.
I understand.
Thanks.
You're saying that you show up as a video and your PowerPoint, and that's great. That's the excellent option.
Okay, is that true for everybody, or some people, as you say, just decide to do voiceover?
Even voiceover isn't bad, as long as you're showing up somewhere else, maybe in a video, or you're doing it, or if you do voice over your PowerPoints, but then you have a synchronous chat so that you're live with them to talk through things every couple of weeks. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we see all kinds, because what I do is I teach people at Ferris how to design quality courses. So I see all kinds going into that, where some people don't even do that much. They don't, so if they just have a PowerPoint, but they're not in it, either visually or auditorily, then it's not going to be as complete a learning, I don't think, for the students. But aside from that, they're not getting the social presence, and that they want. They need your stories. Even if you're annotating a PowerPoint, share a story about something that you've experienced in a job or somewhere that you've seen or read about that explains that, or as an example of that, whatever topic.
Cool, thank you.
That's good.
So this is Angie again, and I just wanted to say we have Beth O'Donnell on here is actually one of the people that I work with at Ferris. She's one of our partners who does our concurrent enrollment. And so she is sitting in on here, and she's messaged that she's liking some of the things that we're going over. I'm so glad she joined us. And just crowdsourcing for her, because she comes up against a different set of problems than what some of us in higher ed do. And that is the lockdown that happens of technology.
Yeah.
So if anyone can give her some ideas of how to maybe navigate around being locked down from some of these great tech tools that we all have access to.
So Beth, a question to you, and it looks like you have done Loom or something, so that's good. I like that you show your face as well as the PowerPoint. That's excellent in that. But my question to you is, can they access YouTube at your school?
It depends on the school. So we service over 20 different local school districts at our tech center.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I'm trying to think how to say it appropriately. It's a mess. I'll put it that way.
I understand.
Allow Zoom, some don't. Some districts allow Google Classroom, some don't. So it's depending on the district, you may or may not have. Some allow YouTube, some don't.
Yeah,
So,
I understand.
Yeah.
So I guess for Google, they can do Google Hangouts to do a face-to-face meeting. For I mean, the ones that can do Zoom, that's perfect. If they can't, you could embed, if they'll allow YouTube, they can embed a YouTube link. They can record it on their computer or even on Zoom. You can, so if you record something on Zoom yourself, I use Zoom to do the presentation you just saw. So you can actually just record yourself talking on Zoom and then give a link that is a cloud link that they can get to, or you can actually embed the video. So it just depends on what they allow, maybe how they can get around that. Could they link to the Zoom link itself if it's saved in the cloud on the Zoom account, or would they need to have it embedded maybe? Another option is you can actually just do it on your computer and then embed it into something. That's just a video off of your computer, so it's not through a tool that might
Just
be
like
blocked.
So I'm thinking, as far as the meetings, because I think I could do like Screencastify or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great
also.
one.
I think that will be allowed. What I'm trying to figure out is how to do those virtual meetings, because I think that that's so important to at least
Agreed.
offer for this, some of the students. So I'm hoping, I have fingers crossed, that Zoom will feel the pressure to increase their security. So that maybe by the fall, the high schools will be more comfortable with allowing Zoom, but
And they've really beefed it up just in the last couple months from everything. So I'm hoping that it'll be acceptable by the high schools and districts as well. But I mean, if I was doing that situation, I'd probably record a Zoom. So I had my face and the PowerPoint, save it to my computer after I got the link. So I'd save to the cloud first, then download to my computer. So I have the link and I have it on my computer. And then hopefully that one video then can be used in different ways like you're saying. But for the live, I'm hoping either they can do Zoom or Google Hangouts. There's other options. It depends on what the school will approve, but there'll be some option because the schools, the high schools that I've seen are all looking for some option for the face-to-face. So hopefully, like you say, more will go to Zoom so that you're personally not dealing with 10 different
Yeah.
amen to that one.
Well, I was gonna say, I think one thing, because I saw also Carolyn Blake says that she also switched from Zoom to Google
Yes.
Meet. And so I've also worked with a lot of K-12 and teacher ed, pre-service teachers and in-service teachers. And yeah, what you're describing, our care classes run into this all the time with the firewalls. And different IT departments that decide however they want to control things for the safety of all the students. And one of the concerns that I have when schools say, well, they don't want to go with Zoom, but then they allow something like Google Meet. One of the reasons that we went to using Zoom a long time ago is the beauty of Zoom as the teacher. I don't always want, because I taught inner city. So a lot of times I don't want some of the family members to know my phone number. I don't want them to know my Gmail, none of that. If they want to stalk, work for it. Zoom, you can just send the link. So it has that layer of protection, just like we talked in some of the sessions yesterday about Remind 101, or Google Voice, how it can put a layer in between you and the recipient. So all of that said, with Zoom or any other type of communication, one of the things that you can kind of throw back the ball to your IT department in this time of the remote learning where we don't know, and we need to protect both any of the parents, any of the elderly, any of the family members. A lot of our students aren't living with, young, healthy parents. They may be with all kinds of extended family with health risks, as well as the teachers themselves. So it's a protection to have that available, but also thinking in terms of the special ed and the ADA, because especially in K-12, if the IT department does not want to make these virtual conferences available on the students' devices, in fact, they're being discriminatory. So it's not a nice way to play. I usually—
I'll write that one down. That's a good one.
Yeah, there are certain things in my time in education that I've learned to memorize. Like, you have 90 days from the time I notified you of a possible disability to take action.
Yeah.
You can play nice, and I 100% believe in playing nice and work because I live here. So anybody, if I'm unkind, I'm still going to see them. And 10 years from now, I'm going to see them. So I don't, recommend going where you don't need to go, but it is very much in the interest of the students and in the mainstreaming and the social. I don't remember what the stats are on autism, but I know, like with the social skills, for example, any student for any reason whatsoever who has any kind of autism diagnosis, the social skills and to be able to see the face is critical, and to see the face with their other classmates. So if someone is saying, well, you can have their computer unlocked, but everybody else's can't, they have just discriminated against them. So, some of the downsides of living in the world that we are, but that is a card that very much, because I live in a rural community and there are so many different ways that people in rural environments, have trouble connecting, have trouble being valued in that same way. And so in K-12, those are some of the things with the firewalls that you can use to encourage them to, loosen up, because they can have all the recordings, so they can have that as evidence that you're not violating any student right, any, HIPAA, FERPA, whatever, SIPA, CAPA, the list of policy. And then, you know, you can always ask them to be the ones, they can set it up for all of you. If they want to monitor and set it up, let them do all the work and send the appointments. That's my, that's one of my high horses when they start the lockdowns in a way that literally makes it next to impossible for regular people to just do something.
So
Yeah,
if you would like
go
to
ahead.
continue with this question and answer session, we have another 30 minutes where we're going to be continuing that. If you would like to move to the technology breakout with Andrew Peterson on creating online assignments and discussions to build interaction, then the link is in the chat here. So
Yeah, so Beth, Tracy and I both have special needs kids, so this is why emotional special needs kids. So this is why we might have to go there and know these things. But another person put a great comment in here. I don't know what PD1 is. I don't know your first name because that's all it shows in the chat. But you had a great comment that said, you know, the students don't have to install Zoom to use it. They can just use it on a browser. So I don't know if that helps to get around some of the schools, things they don't need a program download. They can download it, but they don't need to have it if they just use the link.
I know currently, because I did try Zoom this year, and one of our big school districts they can't access the conversations. So I switched to Google Meets for that, and they're temporarily allowing them to access our Google Classroom. Normally they don't allow that. So it's a mess. They're going to have to come to some consensus so the kids can learn.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be making a lot of decisions for K-12 over the summer for fall on even just the tools. Yeah. Yep. Oh, that was Jeff. So thank you, Jeff, for that suggestion. Are there any other questions, or are you thinking about social distancing? Listen to me. Social presence. No, we don't want to distance. Social presence in a different way, or different things you can do in your course from just our conversations today.
So when you were talking about what are the benefits of social presence, you had posed that question and you were talking about feedback. We did have, I think it was Daniel who made the comment that he was excited when you were talking about the positive feedback aspect. And so that just brought a question to mind for me. What things do you do to build rapport before you give critical feedback to a student? How do you create that brave learning environment online?
That's a great question. So I guess I go back to, for me, when I'm teaching even my graduate students, and graduate students are a different population itself, because you do have to build that rapport simply because they are experienced, they are experts in their fields usually, and they've been working. So a lot of times I really just start out with that synchronous chat and get everybody together, like week 2, to start talking. You know, people get comfortable with each other. You can answer questions. I think this came up, I forget which session yesterday this came up. So this also applies to, someone said, if you're a woman or you're younger, these things happen where you have to establish your professional expertise right up front. So those things help with the synchronous chats for sure. But again, when you're talking about feedback, I get into the discussion boards. So they do introductions week 1 for me. Everyone does an introduction. I did the video. Sometimes I have them do the 1-minute video just like me. Then everyone can see each other because they can do it on their phone and post it however they want to do it on their computer. That's actually better. But if you don't want to do, if you don't want them to have to do a video, then you can have them at least do a post with answering the 4 questions that you put as prompts. But it's just the introduction piece. So then I, as a professor, am in there when I'm facilitating. I am, for the intro, I answer everybody's, like I respond to everybody's. I don't recommend that in the rest of the week's discussion boards, because then no students will talk to each other, ideas for them to get discussions going. The rest of the weeks, I do get in there and respond 2 to 3 times random posts. If you want to redirect or you want to add a scholarly journal link to something someone's talking about in discussion boards, that's fabulous too, as far as credibility, you know, that you're kind of validating what you're talking about, but it's also extending their learning if they go read the journal on the topic, if whatever they brought up. So I think being in the discussion boards or the asynchronous meeting, but then when you get to the assignment to give the feedback, then I start with, great job on this. You know, I really liked whatever it was, you know, like I really liked the topic, or I liked how you, the, you know, stance you had on that, or your opinion, whatever it is, or I liked how you pulled that out of this topic. That was really interesting. Before I say, hey, you need to go, you know, you missed rubric number 2.1 or whatever it is, for next time kind of thing. So I do use a rubric so for my assignment, so that I can go right in there, comment right in the rubric in Canvas under speed graders. So much easier and faster. But you can also, for report, the piece that you were saying, Angie, I would then do let's say you have a class or a person that it seems to be a struggle with that whole credibility. Once in a while, you get that, no matter what age they are. I do think that doing even video feedback for them is a good idea. So in Canvas, you can click the video button and say the same thing you would have typed, or you can type it in and say it. But that was a good question. So it is online. So you have to develop your credibility up front. I'm just reading, see there in the comments. So how about anybody else as far as questions on social presence or ideas that you want to put in, or things that you hadn't thought about that you heard today previously, or anything like that? I'd love to hear.
This is Mike Van Hemert, and I'm consciously not sharing my picture because of the bedhead look.
That's all right.
But nevertheless, I don't know if this is a more appropriate here or at a later session, but one of your references to the rubric in the sort of a weekly discussion context reminded me of an issue I've had in past online courses with MBA students who are typically working days.
Yeah.
And so that kind of has an influence on how they interact in the online discussions. And it is always frustrating to me that I set up a week-long discussion, you know, starting mid-weekend, going to the next weekend, mid-weekend, and I have typically a relatively good initial focus that I'm very interactive with, trying to say, yes, great response, or you're right on track, or, you know, let's look at it a little differently. And then it tends to be those same people that stick with me as follow-up discussion through the week. And then there's a completely distinct group that come in the following weekend. And it's not typically tied to the content that I posted for that week, because I'm very alert to not trying to have them wait to read before they discuss. And so I ended up having to go to a rubric approach that somewhat gave benefit in points to those that jumped in the first 48 hours.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, and penalized those that waited till literally the last 24 hours for their initial post. And it did have some influence, but it frankly made me feel guilty. That I am now sort of forcing them to participate, and I teach soft skills heavily in my courses. And so it kind of made me feel like I might have been defeating my greater purpose. But is there any other way you've discovered that can address that issue where some students just wait until the last minute?
Yes. So I've had different scenarios from what I have seen. I have seen people that require the first post by Tuesday, or the first one by Wednesday, and then the follow-up one by the weekend kind of thing. Tuesdays may be early, maybe Wednesday for those that are working full-time. But I mean, I think if you're interested in getting them early on, I think that's fair. Because if someone needs to do response posts, I've seen this. So, and this is might be something that you're seeing too in yours, Mike, but so if someone's not posting, so you have a class, you have a discussion board that's supposed to be posting and then doing responses to two others, and there's one person who posts before Wednesday. Well, they have nobody they can respond to because nobody else posted. So I have seen it where they require points. to do, say a first one by Wednesday and the next one by the end of the week. For me personally, and again, this is completely a personal choice when it comes to how you want to teach and structure that. For me personally, I'm like MBA graduate, because that's what I teach mostly. I've taught almost all graduate classes and an undergrad. I figure they're busy. They have families, might be caring for older parents. And not just busy, but they physically don't have the time. They have specific, I was gonna say special, but specific time that they say maybe Tuesday night, Thursday night, where they do their courses. So I do connect points to mine. So I talk about right in the beginning that for their discussion post, they get 1 point to post and another point for, of course, mine is based on 100 points for the whole semester. And if they respond to somebody, then they get another point. So they get 2 points a week. Well, that's a third of their grade for that semester. So I talk about that even on, right in the beginning, but I also do it on our synchronous chat on like week 2, because they need to pay attention. They can literally not get the grade they need to pass to go on to the next program if they decide not to post anything. So it's just, it's a requirement in my classes, because that's the only place where I know that they're alive out there, that they post in the discussion board, and how they get to know each other. I know the value is them having that community piece like they would in a classroom. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's a couple different ways you can do that. I didn't monitor which day they did it. They just had to earn their 2 points to respond. And for me, it has to be substantial responses. Can't be, yeah, great answer, I agree. That's not the point.
Yeah, it does answer my question, and I actually have evolved. I am a late career teacher, having been in business and law before this, but I evolved in that rubric to be a lot more substantive as to what I was looking for as the nature of quality of content, as well as responsiveness. And it is actually a higher percentage of their final grade for my online MBA as a point system for discussions. But what was interesting when I switched to teaching online midterm for my undergrads this term, and I consciously did not want to use that rubric because I didn't want to, first of all, shock them. And I quickly found what I had been told by others who are more experienced, that if you don't have basically a carrot and stick approach with immediate point, either gratification or penalty, they won't participate with any regularity. And so I'm starting to feel that same way now about my undergrads as I look to the fall. Do I need to indeed put in those sort of timing parameters and number of responses? And I'm sensing that the answer is probably going to have to be yes. And as you say, if it's clearly indicated up front, I guess that's the best we can do.
I think for undergrad, yes. I think they need the guidance of first one by Wednesday, second one by Saturday, Sunday, whatever that your cutoff is for each week. But graduate students, I am a little more like they're adults. They know they have to post twice. I don't structure theirs so much because I'm figuring they're structuring their lives. But undergrad, I feel like they need to learn how to do the online a little bit with a little bit more guidance. So I think that it's fair to have a Wednesday due date for that, because it's just a post. They can do that from their phones. Most of them do. Most of them are doing assignments 78% on their phones. Like, I don't understand that, but that's what we hear.
Okay, thank you, Kelley.
Yeah, that's a good question. Beth kind of said the same thing, that she does the Wednesday and then the end of the week post too requirement. Anybody else do anything different? That's a great question. If you don't want to talk with your mic, you can type. I would like to know too, is social presence, that whole term process, this whole conversation, is that new to people? Or is that kind of part of discussions in your institutions?
I've never been hesitant to respond to a question, so I'll give it a shot here. It's
Good.
Mike Van Emer again. And I frankly don't sense that historic has been a big part of our online program. It happens that I'm an incredibly gregarious person, and therefore it's always been sort of my nature to try to get my students. I have one of their themes is engaged employees, because I was in the business world for 30 years. But I'm starting to sense that that is indeed sort of becoming a universal understanding that we need to do more as people, particularly who have historically done face-to-face, to bring our students into a sense of engagement. And so I believe that, you know, what you're teaching is sort of the new knowledge base that we all have to gain as those that have been primarily face-to-face in particular.
I have to agree with you. I think it's really picked up speed, the whole social presence piece in the past maybe 5 years, I think, as far as in, I'm an instructional designer, so as far as in conversations and conferences and things like that. And prior to that, it was more, how do I get my content online? And they didn't worry so much about the social presence. But then, you know, DFW rates have shown over researching this over years that hasn't been as effective, which is where the social presence came in. So I just wondered how, if these conversations were yet happening, because it's new for a lot of people, especially if they're new to online teaching, which all of a sudden everybody is. I mean, online teaching, which they hadn't maybe planned to be. So I am kind of curious about if these conversations are happening in other people's circles for the social presence in your classes online. Angie, I see your question. I think that's a good idea, and just see how that goes. I mean, if your students say once, you're like, nah. You know, I think Angie's question was in the comments or chat, wondered about training, like us training our students to set their own intentions to participate in things like the online discussions. So they would set their own goals. It's kind of goal setting in K-12. Like you would say, I will do this how many times a week kind of thing. And I would say give that a try and see if it's effective. But if it's not, then I would say, well, the minimum's twice or whatever you want. But that's not a bad thing to try.
And that was really in response to Beth's post about her observation that it's difficult to get us to engage at this level. And so just translating that over to students. We all chose to be here. Sometimes students do or don't choose to be in the class that they're in.
Absolutely. Especially high schoolers, I'm thinking they're going to choose not to be. So yeah, I understand. So yeah, we have ISDs participating, colleges, mostly university levels, but we have K-12s. So anything that you would like to share of as far as what's happening in your environment with this type of topic, social presence in online classes, I would love to hear that.
I'll just
Someone be
share
brave.
my experience at my ISD and tech center where I teach. I'm a relatively new teacher, came from industry in the health field 3 years ago, worked special ed and medical for 14 years prior. Anyhow, I've always believed in presenting things in multiple modalities and in different ways, so if kids need to hear something later or whatever. So I always recorded my lectures using a swivel and just posting those links to Google Classroom. I will say that where the facility where I work, I was probably one of maybe 3 to all of us teachers thinking this way and trying to prepare for more online instruction. And Most of our stuff is lab based as well. So trying to figure out how to do labs virtually in those simulated environments from home is all very new.
Beth, have you looked into the free online simulations, things like that they can do? The universities in Colorado has a lot of them that they do, free online universities where you can literally put in what grade level or what higher, or if I don't know how high it goes exactly, but it's all over the board as far as what topic you want. And there's other simulations that people can find online that are free for the lab piece, I'm thinking, whether it's chemistry or whatever. So I get it, try to move those online, and you're way ahead of the game. So you're doing awesome if you are already recording your sessions. Even if you're doing a synchronous chat, then you should record it, because it's, again, for all the learning types, people can go back and re-listen if it's recorded and posted in the course. If they had to miss and they were sick, whatever the case may be, they're on appointment, whatever, especially with illness around right now, and family members that may be ill or getting ill, I think the recording is exceptional, no matter if you're synchronous lecturing, talking, or if you're doing a PowerPoint, then definitely record and post that in your class. That's a great point, and you're already ahead of that curve. Good job. Oh, Leslie, Padlet is fabulous. So Leslie posted she uses Padlet. I really like that interactive tool, and it's super fun, actually. It's like Post-it notes on a whiteboard kind of thing, and you can move them around. It's free. It's very fun, actually, I think. That's a great idea. And she just says that she uses that to post for them to post current news. That's a great idea. And topics that they're studying. That's excellent. That's great interactive, just getting them involved again in the learning, engaging them. Excellent. Anyone else use any tools like that to interact with their students or get them involved in the learning if it's distance learning? You're free to use your mics if you'd like. I can't call on you because you're not sitting in my class in front of me, but I'd love to hear just kind of if this is new, if you have any questions on it or even reflections on it. So I use the course questions as part of discussions that I've mentioned. Does anyone do anything differently to kind of navigate the questions, or are they just emailed to you? How do you handle that in your online courses?
In my courses, especially in the high school, I email them the questions ahead of time, and then when we have our Zoom meeting, then they're prepared to discuss them and share them with each other. And then we go back, and I have an assignment for them to go back after our discussion and to add back more information that they learned from their classmates to help develop their answers.
That's excellent. I like that you do that. You prep them with the questions so they're prepared. That's excellent. And Beth uses the Google Forms, which is like a, can be a survey or can be paragraph answers or check boxes, however you want to do that. If you haven't used that, and to have them respond to after viewing lectures or watching a TED Talk, that's excellent. I like in Canvas because if you upload it, so whether you upload a video that you took with your camera on your laptop in Canvas to the studio section, or whether you do your video in studio on Canvas, it's so nice because you can then see the analytics to see how many people watched it and exactly the person and where they stopped. It's amazing. You'll see how they watch the first minute. And it's funny how if you can correlate that to them on a test, you know, if they get that whole section wrong because they didn't watch minute that past 5 or whatever it is, if it's 10-minute video, it's pretty interesting that has the analytics. And I tell you, the next time that student's going to watch it all, if you do that at the beginning. But the other thing I was going to say about Canvas Studio is nice because you can stop that at any point and put a poll, like to take a quiz, like an assessment piece, just to assess their learning on that section. And, you know, it'll also tell you how maybe you need to reword it differently if they didn't all understand it, or repeat it in the next, you know, learning video or whatever it is, if they didn't get that content very well in those sections. So you could do halfway through, you could do a poll, and at the end do a poll, or wherever you want. You can stop it wherever you want to and create a poll right there in the video, which is so nice because they have to answer something on the screen to move on. And it's a great way for you to assess, but it also keeps them paying attention because they know there's a little quiz or poll coming that they have to answer, and in their mind's a quiz. So that's a really nice feature I like in Studio and Canvas. The only thing that with that is, like, if you don't pay for the next version up, like we've got at Ferris, we have the Studio functionality in Canvas that is simply whatever comes with the package. So in other words, the videos will go away if you record a session or something that you've done in Studio. It'll go away in 2 weeks if you haven't, you know, saved it somewhere or downloaded it, which is a bummer. That's why I always do Zoom, because I don't like that. I like to save the recordings. But I've also done Collaborate in Blackboard, which I like, because you can also record yourself doing a presentation or whatever the case may be in Collaborate, if you have that in your Blackboard. Does anyone do anything else with that as far as assessing, you know, like the polls in Canvas Studio, assessing learning after you've done video, you know, lectures or whatever the case may be? Curriculum director? Are you any learning? Whatever you're doing there. We have 2 minutes left. Can you give me shout outs on where you're from, what you do?
Sure. I'm Del Carr. I teach, I'm actually in Florida. I teach at State College of Florida in a physical therapist assistant program, and typically face-to-face. Just suddenly several weeks ago thrust into hybrid, and or looking to the fall to hybrid.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. That's kind of, I'm already getting all these ideas that could help you. Like this, that's an exciting thing for you to be doing, transitioning. Anyone else? Where are you from? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Tom Freeman. I'm hold up your background. So, I'm from Michigan Technological University. I work in the Center for Teaching and Learning there, and also teach education courses, mostly about online learning and integrating technology into teaching and learning.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Bill Bullitt. I teach at Michigan Tech as well in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I teach structural engineering.
Excellent. I like doing that so that you guys can make some connections, but just so I can kind of get an idea of where people are at as well as what they're doing. And if you're new to online, then you might not know what questions you need to ask. I totally understand that. Excellent. Hi, Casey. Casey posted the chat.
All right, so we have reached 10:15, which is the end of breakout session. We now have a 15-minute break.